Hello, hello, everyone. It is Kenyon here, Basketball Rewind. It's an interesting night because we are looking at two conference finals matchups coming up, which is nice. It's very nice. The playoffs move along. Coach, first and foremost, how are you doing this evening?
Great day in the GTA. Like it was so sunny. It was nice. I'm sure many people are away for the long weekend, and we've needed a few of these days. It's been pretty cloudy all winter, so it's nice to have just a couple of nice sunny days, and I think we're gonna have a few more coming up.
For sure. I mean, it's really is, it's nice weather. People get outside, they say touch grass, you know, or concrete if there's no grass. Just get outside, get the body moving, and then come inside and enjoy the game. First and foremost, I want to announce a couple things before we get into today's episode, but I will talk about today's episode. We're obviously going to talk about the upcoming matchups. We're going to talk a little bit of Raptors news, and then, to start things off, I'm going to talk about some of the changes that are coming to this channel, just in a little bit moving forward. So let's start with that. Today, I realized something, Coach, and I said to myself, you know what? We're running out of time. Where the pick is conveyed, all this kind of stuff. So we're obviously going to try to get through as many of these videos as possible, but to speed up production, especially since someone commented on the channel and they outlined that they wish that we would get some of the stuff out, although I think that the information is not necessarily outdated, but I think some of the surrounding conversation with it is, how would X player look as a Raptors or whatever. I think to speed it up, I'm just going to have to cut out on some of the video portions of the breakdowns moving forward. At some point, Coach, I think we talked about hopefully by the end of the summer we can talk about certain plays and whatnot on this if time permits, so that would be fun as well. I will have two breakdowns by the end of summer going into fall, which will be one will be on, well, potentially three, one on Scotty, one on Gradey, and one on whoever the first pick is that we draft. I think those are things that people can look forward to on Basketball Rewind. So without a further ado, that's really it. I don't know if you have any questions, Coach, before we get into today's episode.
I do not. I'm ready to get
Okay.
into it.
All right. So, Wolves just won, and earlier the Pacers won. What do you know? I
What do you
was hope
know?
yeah, I was hoping that the Wolves would win. I predicted them to win at the beginning of the series. I can't remember who I picked with the Pacers. I think I might have picked the Knicks. I have to go back to that. But I did say that the longer that this series would go, the more challenging and the more that it presented options. I might have actually, through the course of that, changed my mind to the Pacers, though. 'Cause I remember talking, and I think I had going into it, I said the Knicks, and then Beyond kind of swayed me into the Pacers. So I have to go back to that. But the way that the Pacers approached this. So let's talk about the Pacers first. Um, they should have won this series before. I think that they were honestly the better equipped team. Say both teams being as healthy as they were on game one onwards. I think that they were much more equipped. They had advantages if they were willing to press those advantages that they had over the Knicks. So I think that I'm happy for them. They had two really blowout wins. I wish that they could have really clinched that first, especially that first game. They really there's a couple games that really they had chances to win and they kind of threw away. Your thoughts on the Knicks Pacers game or series, I should say.
Well, I picked the Pacers to win in six mainly because of all the injuries that were plaguing the Knicks. We went into this series. OG was out. I think Mitchell Robinson sprained his ankle. He was out because he already had ankle surgery. Julius Randle's been out since January. I mean, they were down three starters, three front court players,
Then Brogdon
and and
or sorry, Bogdanovich.
And then Bogdanovich went down. Josh Hart got the abdominal strain. Jalen Brunson, we all know, was hurt in this series. I mean, I'll give the Knicks credit, like their players, to battle through the things that they had to, and to still make this go 7 games. And they could have stole one of those games that Indiana won, quite frankly, as well. I can't remember which game it was, but I give their players, a ton of credit battling through all the injuries that they had. They were definitely playing hurt, many of them. But you made a good point about Indiana. Indiana was more healthy. They had more depth. They had more size, especially after Robinson went down.
Yep.
So this was just time for Turner and Siakam to really take advantage in this series. And I thought they did the last few games. I was really impressed with Siakam and Turner throughout the series, even against Milwaukee. I thought they were good. And who knew Turner would be a good fit with Siakam?
Oh well, I think
I
Siakam
think I
definitely
think I
knew.
think I think Basketball Rewind kind of knew, about a year ago. But
Yeah. Now, we get a couple commenters suggesting that we hate the team, or maybe it's just that I hate the team. I don't know.
hate who?
Hate the team,
The
the
Raptors?
Raptors, because
No.
woe was me. I think the thing with this trade that happened to get the Pacers to this point is like forget about the argument of paying Siakam or not. The Pacers retain so many assets that they can make a move, like a real move if they want to, and probably still potentially retain Ben Mathurin, who didn't even play in this series.
Yeah. I read something on Twitter that they are an example of what the new CBA is going to look like and how teams are probably going to operate. Two max players, and then you're going to have a lot of guys on their rookie contracts. Matherin, uh, who else do we have? Nemhard, Isaiah Jackson, Jerace Walker. Now they have Obi Toppin. Toppins will be coming off, I know, soon. But that's kind of going to be the structure, I would think, moving forward. And then you're going to have a guy who makes a little bit of money. That's your Miles Turner, but he's not a max guy. And I think they're setting a blueprint for that, for what this could look like moving forward.
The other thing too is that if both of your top two guys don't make super maxes, which if Hallie makes an All NBA team, that changes this calculus. But right now, Siakam and him would be max players. If two guys
Yep.
are on a max, it provides you potentially another max slot, and that could be your Mathurin. That could be, someone else that you trade for as well. So it opens up not paying a super max, because that's the thing. Everyone focuses on people get the supermax number confused with the max. You can afford three if you really really want to be expensive, four max guys, or if you keep them below max and stuff like that, you could, yeah, there's, but you can have three max guys and then build out a team, or two supermax guys and build out, a bunch of, say, like the actor thing, a bunch of C-list actors. So you get, your George Clooney and someone else, and you have a bunch of no names. Fair enough, right? Or you could have, your moderate cast and stuff like that. Now, we will get into team building soon. I was talking to JD, so shout out to JD about team building of, what is the best way to team build and all that. It's something that we kind of teased out over the time. But I think that they're in a really good position moving forward. And that's kind of my point, just in terms of like whether it be picks or other things. Someone was saying, oh, the Pacers traded all their picks. No, they didn't. Like they traded other people's picks. And they traded their pick from this year and as well as a pick from next year. Now, uh, one thing that is interesting about the pick situation is this. Um, I'm noticing that there's a lot of picks that might be available in the top 10. Again, what does that tell you about the value of a pick before we move on to the next series?
Go to Beyond. He's been asking the question now for months since the
No,
trade
no one's
deadline.
giving him an answer.
Nobody can give him an answer.
Yes. And again, it's more so I want uh moving forward, the best possible team that we can have. Without breaking down every single guy on our team, there are things, even if you look through the small sample size that we saw, where we were routinely getting, I went through it recently. So if people think I didn't, we were routinely getting scored on by 125, and we were struggling to crack 100 points for quite a long time. It was rough. I trust me, people. I watched every single game, sometimes more than once. I'm embarrassed to say. So the Pacers are going to move on. They are going to face Boston. That is interesting for several reasons because Boston has been waiting for them, essentially. And so Boston has had a little bit of a rest. Now the Pacers come in having freshly played series. Do you think that that's going to affect the series at all? Because sometimes rest is a bad thing if it's too much rest because you get out of sorts. So thoughts on that?
A good question because sometimes you can sit too long, and like you just said, you can get a bit rusty. But the Pacers went through 7 games, but I don't think they have any injuries outside of Mather, who hasn't played in a few months. I think that also could be to their benefit too, because they're like, okay, we're ready to go. We've been playing the way we've been playing, and if anything, Indiana's been playing better. It's kind of glad that they don't have a lot of time off. You want to capitalize on this momentum that they have right now, and I really think it's going to be a good series. It's going to be interesting with Boston because Porzingis is out, or he is for now anyway. They'll need that guy to win a title.
Yeah, I was gonna say, who would have thought that? Like, I've been suggesting this since they got Porzingis. That I'm like, how long is Porzingis gonna be healthy? Because now your rim protection looks very different, and Al Horford is 1 year older. Robert Williams is not there anymore, and if he was there, I don't know if he would be there fully. So, for that reason, I think it's going to be interesting. Before we go into the, you know, details of it, so to speak, just offhand, what is your prediction? Who's going to win? How many games?
This is tough. I'm
I
going to
think
go
it's closer
Boston
than
in
people.
7.
Okay, yeah.
I'm going to go Boston in 7, but I want Indiana to win. They've been doubted. You know, uh, they've mind you, they played some teams who've had some injuries. They run into Giannis in Milwaukee. He was out. They Dame was out a few games as well. Run into the Knicks. No Randall. No Robinson. No OG for most of it. OG only played like 5 minutes today, and then he was out. They tried to have him pull a Willis Reed, I guess, but that didn't work with OG. Um, but I think this is going to be a very good series to watch. I'll have Boston. Tyler, a shout out to you. I know you're a Boston fan, so I'll go with Boston in 7, but just know I am going for Indiana.
We will have him on soon. I think Boston's interesting because they haven't really been challenged in the way that you would have wanted them to be challenged. Like I wanted them to
Yeah,
face the Magic. I'm glad that the Pacers won. If for any other reason than you get a healthy squad, like could you imagine Boston versus the Knicks with like Brunson's out? With it's like, come on, man. Like that's
it'd be a sweep. It'd be a sweep.
it's not even fun at that point. So I think Indiana can present some very interesting challenges, I will say, to Boston. And I think that while I'm rooting for Indiana, I also think Boston in 7. So I will match that. But the longer the series goes, and the longer the series goes without Porzingis, the tougher things get for that team. Because now Rick Carlisle starts thinking. I think he does better. He's a slow adjuster. It's almost like Casey in a sense, where I guess this same coaching tree. It makes sense,
Yeah,
doesn't it? But
Well, what were you and I saying about the last two games of this series?
you go inside
You
out.
inside out. You play traditional basketball. None of this outside in crap. But although today they
Yeah.
did shoot from the outside really well, but Halliburton especially. But I still think in the series against Boston, now that's going to be a little bit tougher. But I still think you can do that with Porzingis out. I don't see why you couldn't. It's just the Knicks were so decimated with injuries. Horford's still like solid and pretty good, but outside of Horford, uh, who else is doing some post guarding in the post?
It might have to be Tatum. That's going to be very interesting.
Hmm.
So to me,
How long have we been saying now for a year and a half even? We've been saying, well, I wonder what a team like an actual team around Siakam would look like to complement his skill
to
set.
his skill set exactly.
We're literally
Or
watching that team right now.
if you're building a team properly, you're building around a core.
Yeah.
Him and well, technically it should be Matherin, but right now him and Hallie are the core, or him, Hallie, and Turner. What strengths do you build around that? And it is very interesting. Now I will say Siakam has done pretty well against the Celtics throughout his career. Actually, he's never really truly struggled against them too much. Obviously there's the bubble series, but if you're taking out the bubble series where he had kind of not touched a basketball because he was in Canadian lockdown, and even in that, like if you watch that series, defensively, he was locking Tatum up. Actually, this year when Boston was playing them, people were like, "Oh, they're hunting Siakam." It's like, no, they're actually pre-switching, and actually they're hunting Siakam so that they can get the pick and roll to get onto Pirtle, and then they were attacking Pirtle. They weren't attacking Siakam. They were trying to get off Siakam. So they're going to have some interesting. Now, I don't like Indiana's defense. They're going to have to make certain adjustments defensively faster. But offensively, they're going to be able to, especially without Porzingis there, I think that they can punch up and give Boston a run for their money. I do think it's going to be very. I don't know if I'm going to say close games. You might see a lot of blowouts one way or another. It's going to be a weird series.
Yeah. I thought Indiana's defense the last couple of games
It's gotten
was much
better.
better. I think Rick Carlisle's made the adjustments a
Neesmith
bit more.
on Brunson, yeah.
Neesmith on Brunson, you know, Siakam's a good defender. I don't care anyone says. He is a reliable. He's not going to win Defensive Player of the Year, but he's a reliable defender. And Miles Turner, we've seen the rim protection. So they have guys who can defend, and I'll be curious to see if that gets really turned up in this next series. Because it's going to have to be, or else you're going to lose to. You're definitely going to lose to Boston if you don't defend well. You have to defend well if you're going to beat them.
Two keys. Rebounding will be key, and
Yes.
how the Pacers handle Derek White will be interesting because Derek White is involved heavily in a lot of their actions, and how they handle that and how they blow up those actions, I think will be very, very key and very interesting. Um, we move on. And also, shout out to OG. I hope he gets his money. That's rough. I again, he picked one heck of a coach to go to. If he's trying to remain healthy and well, and potentially get another all defense. I don't think it ever happens under Tibbs because that man will have his knees ground into nubs, little chicken bonelets before. But hey, um, we move. Oh, one other thing before I move on. There's been a couple comments. I just want to point things out that if OG was healthy, that he would have defended Siakam. OG was relatively healthy at the start of the series, and especially at least his knees. He didn't have a hamstring thing; it was his elbow. So, in
Yeah.
terms of his ability to stay in front of guys and whatnot, he was healthy to start the series. Um, Siakam shot 5 of 7 when he was guarded by a healthy OG. He ain't guarding. The guy is a borderline all NBA player for a reason, and especially on the offensive end. I mean, if you look at the advanced metrics, he's above the 93rd percentile on offense, even with being improperly used by Darko at times. The other thing that I was going to say, and not to go on too much of a Siakam rant, is that I think a lot of people forget, they credit Darko with his ability to do things off ball when they forget that Siakam's played a lot of roles throughout his entire career.
You mean he's not declined?
That too. But yeah, but moving on, I'm really happy for the Pacers. Really rooting for them. They're a little bit of underdogs, so I'm obviously going to root for the underdogs. Minnesota's the next one. Okay, so um, what a series! What
Narratives.
a series! Holy smokes! This was, if you wanted a series, this was the series. I was thoroughly impressed from start to finish by Ant and Minnesota, but also the way that after getting really walloped, essentially, that Denver didn't give up, showed the heart of a champion, and really fought back and made this a 7 game series. What made me so confident, especially before, but also after, is you look at the season series, and even in the series, it's like the first game, what was it? Did Minnesota, I think, crack? They didn't let Denver crack 80 in that first game, if I'm not mistaken.
Possibly. I don't
And then that
remember.
last game before today, they didn't crack 70. In during this season, Denver, who has a really high-powered offense, I think they weren't really able to stop Minnesota per se. But yet on the flip side, Minnesota was able to hold Denver during this series in the season under 100 points at least twice. So there was definitely going to be a battle happening.
I think
Um,
Minnesota was the best defense in the NBA this year.
Last I remember, yeah, they also have a
Yeah.
defensive player of the year, multi-time defensive player of the year. Um, he's going, Wemby, not your turn yet, son.
Yeah. Well, the first half, it was a
Yes.
little concerning. And Jokic just scored like 47 on the guy. And he did the other, see, game
Yep.
five? It was
Yeah, I mean,
game
when a
five.
guy's good, a guy's good.
Yeah. And tonight in the first half, he did not look very good. In the second half, he became a bit more aggressive offensively, especially Cat was in some foul trouble. And I thought Gobert was just I thought he's really aggressive offensively and defensively in the second half, and they needed it for sure. And this game, Jokic was gassed by the second half. He's not used to playing that many minutes and just the other players just were not stepping up outside of Jamal Murray. Porter did not, Gordon did not, KCP did not, Braun did for a little bit. They didn't show up the role players, and Minnesota's role players did. Jaden McDaniels, I think he had 23. Yeah, he had 23 points on 7 to 10 shooting. Nas Reed had 11 points on 4 or 7 shooting. Gobert had 13, and like Anthony Edwards only had 16 points. Anthony Edwards was 6 of 24. A horrible shooting night. He made some timely baskets toward down the stretch, but they still managed to take down Denver with Ant Man shooting 6 of 24.
And sorry, I got it wrong. It was actually game two. So they beat them game one, and then game two they came back again, both games on their floor, and they smacked them up and didn't allow them to score over 80 points. That is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
I think when you do that in that altitude, when you're supposedly at a disadvantage, it says something. And you're doing it against, at that time, right now, I guess they're now the defeated champs, but the reigning champs. They will no longer be. We will have a new champion crowned this year in basketball. Is the league at parity? I would say so.
Oh yeah, well, 6 different title winners in the last 6 years, dating back to Toronto. What was
Yep.
it? It's been Toronto, LA, Milwaukee,
Golden
Golden
State.
State, Denver. Now we're gonna have a new one.
Yep. It's amazing, isn't it?
And and I think it does speak to the parity in the NBA. The era of super teams are gone, for
Yes.
better
Now,
or for worse,
now
right?
you do have to put your
However way,
yeah, you
how
do have to put yourself in a position to succeed, but sorry, you were saying.
No, however you want to view it. If you love super teams, if you don't, because I understand, like, if you follow basketball, like in the 80s,
Right.
you saw the Lakers, you saw the Celtics, you saw Philly for a bit, and even in the 90s, and then the LeBron era with the Heat, and then Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, Golden State. But that era is going to be gone now. It's about you got to draft and develop well. That's what you got to make smart free agent signings, and you got to make sensible trades. It, it's it's kind of just bringing more balance across the league. Like some of these markets that are been in the playoffs, like Minnesota, Indiana, these are not big markets. This is not the Knicks or Golden State or the Lakers. You have to draft well, you have to make good trades, and you have to do smart free agent signings.
Absolutely. And you have to do them all rapidly. It all happens a lot faster than it used to. Used to be able to wait teams out, wait till the deadline, do one move, and not be as proactive. And I think that the best teams. I always remember last year in the middle of the finals, Denver made a trade to get better and to financially, you know, strengthen their books moving forward to keep their team together for a couple extra years. So, this Denver team will be back, but like this is why they will be back. Now, before we go into the next series, does relate back to the Raptors. We held on to Bruce Brown. I think Denver missed Bruce Brown just a little bit. So, as they say in The Wire, the price of the brick just went up.
I think it has. And whenever I watch the NBA on ESPN, Stephen A. Smith kept saying from that first round, "Boy, we're going to find out if Denver's missing Bruce Brown." And he
Did he
kept
actually say
saying it.
that?
He actually did say it a few times, and
Interesting.
I'm like, "This is interesting because if Denver loses in one of these series, does the value of Bruce Brown across the league go up a little bit?
Just a little bit.
Does Denver try to reacquire him back? I don't know how that would work with the money. I don't think it would. I think a team that's somewhat contending would use a Bruce Brown, not a team that's going to rebuild. There's no point for that. So I'm sure the Raptors will have some phone calls from contending teams now to try to get a deal done. My two favorite players in the league are Dame Lillard and Jokic.
I didn't know that Jokic. I know Dame because you've been telling me for
Yeah,
years, Dame.
yeah.
I didn't
No,
know.
Jokic is number two for me, and as a big Jokic fan, he ain't ahead of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar for me. So no,
Would you put him ahead of Bill Russell? I'm just curious.
no. I got in an argument with someone in a Twitter space who got mad at me because I put Bill Russell ahead of Kobe. I told him my reasoning because this is a subjective question.
Right,
You're
right,
talking
right.
about Mount Rush, his goats, top 10 or whatever. I said, yes, I have Bill Russell ahead of Kobe. It's
Interesting.
not a knock against Kobe. Loved Kobe. I think you can say that Kobe probably is the better player because basketball has evolved a lot since the
Yes,
1960s. But I am going to show respect to a man who won 11 championships in 13 years.
in that
That's
era
not,
too, when his
yeah,
own
and that's not
hometown didn't
happening
like
again.
him.
Yeah, exactly. So that's not happening again.
No,
So for me, I that's just such a subjective question.
it
So yeah,
is.
I'm sorry, I got Bill Russell, the all-time winningest player ever in the
I mean, there's a
NBA.
reason why
Yeah,
every single team had his number on the court, right?
yeah,
Like there's a reason why the Finals MVP is named after him. So, but I digress. That's okay.
yeah.
Um, Moving forward, we have the next series, which I guess we didn't really talk. We didn't even talk about like the Celtics or whatever beating, but whatever. Like that was like, even though they're the Cavs fans didn't want it to, like game one happened. They're like, yeah, I just want this to be over.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go lie down. So, yeah, I don't know if Beyond's not here. Beyond, would normally gloat at this moment. Luca.
He might get
uh,
his Michael Finley jersey because this is what he had
exactly.
before.
Uh,
Yeah, love it. I love it. It's good.
so hopefully my Beyond impression is somewhat on point. But I will say this: a hard-fought series. I think the Thunder had a lot of things to throw at them, They did make some mistakes in that last game, and that last game, cost them. They were up, and they lost that game.
Well, yeah, like you said, very hard fought series for sure. I did wonder when the I don't want to say so much luck, but I had a feeling the Thunder are going to run into some problems with the lack of size that they have up front and with just Chet. When you run into Gafford and Lively, especially Gafford, he gets physical, man. And Chet ran into Valanciunas in in the series before that, so I wasn't too shocked that Oklahoma City lost this series. I love Shea. I think they have something special building in Oklahoma City, but I think Luka, he played well. Kyrie Irving was really good in this series. He was so poised.
He
Like
really
he's the
was.
guy at the end of the game. Get him the damn ball. Kyrie was really good. I really love the efforts of Derek Lively. And let's give a shout out to PJ Washington. In the 6 games, or in 5 of those 6 games, man, he was unbelievable. He's been that third player, or third scorer, I should say, that they've needed. Every team in the playoffs needs about 3 guys, basically, to do well. You look at Denver tonight. They didn't have anyone outside of Jokic and Murray. And Minnesota had Towns, they had McDaniels, they even had Nas Reed playing, and then Anthony Edwards had his 60. But my point is, you need 3 guys, and Dallas had 3 guys who was really scoring throughout the series. And I think that they have put, speaking of team building earlier, as you said, they put the right pieces around Luka and Kyrie. I think they got guys who just know how to play their roles, guys who can defend, guys who are athletic. Lively was a great pickup. PJ Washington helped spread the floor for Luka and Kyrie. And kudos to their front office for making those moves and understanding the moment that they're in when you have a Luka Doncic and Kyrie on the same team. It's win now.
I think the biggest gamble that they did was making the move for Kyrie because it could have
Yep.
went a number of different ways. They brought him in. There was a lot of talk around, is he going to leave to the Lakers? I told people multiple times the second he gets traded, he ain't moving again. That's it. Because you don't want to be one of those players where you can't make it work three teams in 3 years. It's a bad look. So I thought he was going to make it look or work, and he has. And kudos to him. And really, he's been playing with a lot of focus and yeah, I can't take anything away from him. I mean, talent wise, he's always been one of the. I mean, even just watching him, he's just one of the most fun players to watch. As a guy on a team.
Yeah, absolutely. He's special with no. When you think of some of the great ball handlers, like you might think of Isaiah Thomas, you think of AI, Kyrie's right there with him. If not, he might be number one. He is so gifted of a basketball player. And Dallas, I'll give Dallas credit though. Like when they made the trade, like they paid him his money. He deserves every penny of it especially when he is playing.
Yep,
I'm just glad that they treated him well, and I
they
think
did.
this is it's just good to see that Kyrie, he's had a pretty good year with Dallas as well. And in the playoffs, you want a guy like that. You want a guy like that who could take over a game.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's yeah. There's nothing more that I can add. He's a talented guy.
Very
Really, really talented player. Um, and I think that really triggered. It's like we're going for this. So, the other thing too is that if they didn't go for these moves, you already heard rumblings. I think that they have staved that off for a little bit of time, which is nice. So for Luca, I wish him all the best. I also wish Ant all the best too. I'm going to give my prediction.
okay.
I'm going to pick Minnesota. I'm going to pick Minnesota in 7 though. Like offensively with the additions of Gafford and PJ, it's a lot. Minnesota also has a lot. They both have dudes. Like they both have dudes. But I don't know. There's something about Ant. I think you're not this isn't normal. Sometimes you have to recognize when you're in the moment and sit down and ask yourself, are you witnessing something that is special? And I think we might be in one of those moments. The way he talks, the way he moves, the way he takes account of just everything, and he's getting better with every game and learning through the ups and the downs. It's really something special to see. And Luca's had his battles already, and we'll see. Maybe this is the time that Luca gets over the hump, makes it to the finals, because he's been to a Western Conference Finals before. But I don't know, man. This ant, this ant dude is he's a little hungry, you
He's
know,
different.
and he
Yeah,
plays angry too.
he's got charisma.
Yes. Whatever it is that Paul Pierce used to talk about, that he said that Raptors don't have it, this dude has it. This dude has it, whatever it is.
I remember in 2020, just before the draft, and this is before Spaces, so I don't remember exactly. Maybe it was Real GM or something. I can't remember.
Right.
And I remember having some conversation with people. They were saying how Minnesota should draft Wiseman or Ball. And it's not a knock against those guys. I'm not saying so much that, but I'm like, you run to the podium and you select Anthony Edwards. You just don't pass up on talents like him. And even at University of Georgia, like sometimes he would struggle a little bit with his jump shot, but I mean, this guy was just so freaking talented that year before COVID, all this stuff had happened. I'm just like, no, you run to the podium, take Anthony Edwards, take your W, and move on. I just thought he was so he by to me he was like he's number one pick. There's not a doubt in my mind, and he's phenomenal to watch. Like, you love watching this guy. His athleticism, he's got great form. The jump shot, pull up jump shot, the stationary jump shot. And here's the thing with the Ant Man. I'm going to give him a ton of credit because people will say he didn't play well tonight, and I disagree, kind of. That guy was guarding Jamal Murray all series. That's your best number one option, and he's guarding basically, if you want to say the second best player on the Denver Nuggets, but there's been many playoff games where Jamal Murray's been actually the best player as well. Ant Man said, no, I'm guarding him. And he did very well guarding Jamal Murray because a lot of times you don't have your star players guard the other team's star player or one of their star players. You make them guard the fifth option to save energy. He didn't do that. He was guarding a guy who was like averaging 50 over a couple of games there in the bubble, the playoffs. So I kudos to Anthony Edwards taking on that challenge.
It's not usually the case where a guy can bring it on both ends of the ball and cover. Last time I saw that regularly, it was like, I mean, there's other guys that do it, but like Kawhi, it comes to mind first.
Yep.
This-
We had no choice. It's like, Kawhi, you don't
Yeah,
guard Giannis. We ain't winning this series. So,
precisely. So, the other thing is he's been really healthy.
yeah,
72, 72, and then 79 for the last 2 years. He's still on his rookie scale deal. Think
it's a
about
good
that.
contract to have right now. And
I
Anthony Edwards
mean,
on a rookie scale contract.
I think he's turned 23. I think. I have to double check
Did
on
he?
that.
He either just turned 23 or he is turning 23.
Like that's this is why I'm saying like Scotty and his peer group, we'll get to that in a second. Yeah, he doesn't turn 22 until August.
Or okay, so he's turned 23 until
Sorry,
August.
he's
Wow.
yeah, until 23 till August, which is incredible.
So he's younger than Scotty?
Scotty's
technically.
21, I think.
No, no, Scotty's 22.
Is he actually?
He's 22. Yeah, yeah.
What?
Scotty's 22. Yeah,
And Scotty's birthday's before?
yeah.
That's sorry.
I,
Each.
I believe it.
Yeah, no,
I
it is
believe he
August
is.
1st versus August 5th.
Oh, okay. Well, it's pretty close, but yeah. So they're the same
Like
age.
Scott,
I
but
think I
Scotty turns 23 earlier.
by
Wow.
a few days. Yeah, it was. I think maybe Ant was just really young. I guess when maybe he started school a year
He might have
before. Maybe it was
started
that.
school, but
Yeah,
sorry, I'm just like they're the same age. Like that's
yeah.
just, you
They
know,
are this. They are the same
I
age,
don't even
which
know how to
is
comprehend that. So, uh, whew,
yeah.
wow.
So Anthony Edwards is 22, and the jump that he's made this year. I know Beyond has spoke glowingly about Anthony Edwards,
Throughout,
even
yes.
throughout, and he's like that guy should get some MVP consideration. I was like, man, it's probably going to be Jokic or SGA, and it kind of was, but I think Anthony Edwards has put the league on notice this playoff. It's like I'm going to be the face of the league along with Wemby someday in the next 24 months, 36
Yes.
months, something like that.
Well, it's crazy too because there's like guys like Ja and there's so many dudes. Like, this is why I keep telling people. But yeah, so it sounds like you're also picking Minnesota.
You know what? Dion will like this. I'm actually going to go with Dallas. I'm rooting for Minnesota because I just like their team. But if I'm objectively picking a team, I think Dallas has a little bit more experience. They've been
Mm.
here before. I worry about Gobert in the playoffs. I just do. Um, Now Dallas doesn't have a really Lively's not a stretch big, and neither is Gabbers. That actually might play into Minnesota's favor a little
Well, I
bit
was gonna
more.
say, what if you just swap out like because Nas Reed is interesting.
Exactly. I am gonna think Luke and Kyrie together. They're gonna be tough to handle. I get it. Minnesota's a really good defensive team, but as Beyond likes to remind us, don't get Luca angry. I think he's a bit self-destructive with all the this that he does on the court, but I guess everyone does that on the court to the refs. I just think that that's going to hurt him in the long run. But it's just the way that Dallas has been playing. I want this to go 7 games. I want this to be a final shot.
I
Just
agree.
the way that Kyrie's been playing too. There's just something about Dallas and the guys that they have, I just like I got to give this much of the nod over Minnesota, even though I kind of want Minnesota to win because I want to see Anthony Edwards in the finals.
Okay, all right, and sorry, did you say the number of games? I might have missed that.
7.
7. Okay, so we're both going
I
seven
want
games.
I want
I'm
seven
sure. I'm
games.
sure Beyond would say 6 games to Dallas.
I think Luca is that big shot maker, and so we all know Kyrie Irving is.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So I'm gonna roll with Dallas winning in 7 games.
Right. Okay. Oh hey. Um, without a further ado, before we get to the very last subject, Scotty Barnes and the Raptors and all that good stuff. So, Aaron Gordon apparently had comments from the Ringer. Now, I haven't had a chance to go through the whole Ringer article. I started to go through, but I've been quite busy. But just sifting through it, I didn't find anything specifically. But I think he was asked on a podcast, you know, kind of players who are quote unquote miscast and could be the next Aaron Gordon, and he said Scotty Barnes could be that. Now, uh, of course, Raptors Nation went into a frenzy because you are insulting our man, Scotty.
Yeah,
Um, now, I had a different interpretation. I don't think that the direct comparison was Aaron Gordon's like Scotty's like me, because I obviously think, even though people think that I hate Scotty Barnes or whatever, or I'm down on Scotty Barnes, he's a much more accomplished player today outside of having a championship, obviously. This does count for something. Um, than Aaron Gordon. Like he should be a much better player than Aaron Gordon. I can't remember where Aaron Gordon's draft position was, but he was drafted quite high. But Scotty Barnes is a better player. Um, they do have some similar, in terms of the height and girth or whatever, have some similarities, and Scotty could definitely play with more power and stuff like that. But um, they're just different players. But I think it's an interesting topic because sometimes I think the real question is can Scotty be, you know, the number one guy or not or whatever? And to me, I'm like, is it really that insulting to say that right now until he proves it, that I see him as a number two or three guy on a championship team?
You're saying that
Like, is
Scotty
that
is
a bad
possible.
thing to see Scotty as like? Because the way that I was looking at it is, who could be the glue guy, right? Like, imagine. Here's a good thing. It's like, imagine if Scotty could be Draymond Green with catch and shoot. Like, that's an insane player. I'm pretty sure Golden State would have won a few more championships by now if that was the case. If he didn't shoot like he shot Draymond Green, that is, like he has a backpack on his back.
Yeah. Okay. So I was aware of this, but I didn't know the all the ins and outs of kind of the
Mhm.
narrative around this Scotty versus Aaron Gordon thing.
Yeah,
I think Scotty's a better player.
of
Scotty's
course.
he's won Rookie of the Year. Scotty's been an All Star. I don't know if it. I don't think Aaron Gordon's been an All Star. I get
He
it
has
how
been
they're
at All
both
Star
kind of
Weekend.
yeah. Yeah, that's true. I think they're like maybe they're similar type athletes in some regards.
Yeah,
I think Scotty's a much better defender than Aaron Gordon. I'm just looking at some of their stats right now, and let's see here.
Scotty's definitely a better help defender.
Yeah, I mean
100%.
some of their career numbers. Even this year, Scotty about 20 a game. Scotty's about 8 rebounds. So did Aaron Gordon, roughly. Scotty's a better passer.
Hmm.
Uh,
Much better
yeah,
passer.
yeah. Yeah. It's interesting, I guess,
See,
but
I don't do the
I
direct
don't.
comparison, right? Really a direct comparison. And I don't think that that's what Aaron Gordon was trying to say.
Yeah, I think if some people, if they're looking at how, Aaron Gordon was number one option in Orlando for a couple of years and they really struggled, like if they're making that comparison, I think it's a little unfair to Scotty right now.
I agree.
Now, if you tell me over the next few years that the Raptors are going to be similar to Orlando, would be like a mediocre option, that maybe that's a bit more of a comparison. But Scotty still might have much better numbers because his game is more all around than Aaron Gordon. Scotty can pass. We see the jump shot improve. Now it did dip second half of the
Right.
year, but we suspect that some of those numbers are going to go up for him.
But also
So
just in terms of like projecting Scotty's ceiling, like my whole thing is that Scotty from a brain wise and understanding like the awareness of like what to do on a court, he has a very high understanding. I mean, every time I say it, I say, oh, he has 90th percentile, like playmaking vision and all this kind of stuff, especially in transition. But the skill work needs to catch up. That's it. But that skill work, that dribbling, it's not easy. And so
Aaron
my thing is like I'm looking at, I always say, what is Scotty today? Because a lot of people are projecting where they see Scotty is and saying he's that today. You were saying something.
Aaron Gordon's played 10 seasons
Yeah.
as well. Scotty's played three. I don't like the comparison in that regards either. It's
Are
hard when
are
you
you
have
upset with Aaron Gordon for making those comments?
no. If they're his comments, go ahead, say it.
Yeah.
I just don't know. I just don't quite get the connection.
Yeah,
Um,
I think it was more like who could be miscast and be a good glue guy. That's what I say is just like
hmm,
Scotty is a great glue guy, but that doesn't necessarily take away from his future greatness as a player. You need someone that's will. I mean, I'm sorry, Raptors fans. Did a certain someone not say Boardman gets paid? You need that. You need
Yeah.
someone who's willing to do it all. And that's an
Okay.
important thing to have.
Here's how I look at this too, and this actually ties into Scotty. When Darko made those comments after the Lakers game this year,
Right.
how he spaces the league, we not obviously we, but most of the U.S. media was making jokes about it. They
Yes.
were, they were laughing. They're like, "Come on, I don't need to face the league." I was on your show and I said, use it as motivation. They think this is a big joke. Whether they're right or they're wrong, that's not the point. If I am a basketball player and they're laughing at me and they're, doubting my work ethic and they're doubting how good I can be and putting a ceiling on me, use it as motivation.
Bingo.
So I hope Scotty will use this as motivation. This is not a knock against Aaron Gordon, but that's a ceiling that you're placing on him.
Yep.
So use it and say, no, you know what? I can be a number one option.
And I stand by
Hopefully
my
on,
my opinion. Like, I think that Scotty at his peak, he can be what he wants to be, but that's ultimately up to him. And like I said, it might take him more than a year to get there in terms of the skill development and stuff like that. That's it. That's it. It's just
you
like
know,
working on your handle and stuff like that. When this skill development started off at such a low level, it just takes time.
yeah, Fred was right on that about Scotty. I got tired of Fred shooting 4 for 17 every other night,
Yes.
2 years ago. But Fred was right. He said Scotty will be as good as he wants to be.
I didn't realize
I
Fred said it until after, and you guys pointed it out. But yeah.
Yeah, no, I think he's right. I don't know if he was being a little tongue in cheek about it. Or was actually I
I
assumed he
think
was
he was
being
being
serious.
serious. No,
Yeah,
yeah. I
yeah,
think Fred's point was he sees this kid with all these athletic raw gifts
yeah,
that he does not have. And is basically, as long as you put in the work, young man, you can be whatever you want to be. And that's not to say whether he's put in the work or not put in the work or whatever. And also, even when you put in the work, and I've even in my own life, I've noticed this. Sometimes you put in the work, you're not putting it in the right way, or sometimes you get there and it's like, oh man, the work that I was putting in yesterday, I now have to put in double today.
yeah,
And so
yeah,
these are the challenges of being a young NBA player. Also being essentially in many ways a brand, a business, and all these type of things. But we will see. And like I said, I do think that the future is bright. Just so people uh clarify, it's just the immediate future is a little murky. That's all.
yeah. But that's what happens when the house burns down, which is
Yep.
this team, and you have to start from a foundation, and they're starting from a foundation with him
Yep.
and RJ and IQ. Want to put Grady in there? That's fine as
And
well.
building back up the G League pipeline.
Yes, okay,
Those things
you're
take
absolutely
time.
right
Those
because the
things take
host has
time.
been on fire for about 2 years now.
Yes.
People can say they brought in Pirtle as someone to put out the fire a little bit, and they had Fred for a little bit. And they're like, we're just trying to put out some of the flames of this fire that's been happening. And then this year, they took Siakam and OG away from the fire hose and said, let it
Yes.
burn, and then we'll rebuild the foundation from the ground up. And that's how you do it. Takes time, and you have to have some luck along the way as well. And how do you do that? That's through the draft. That's making maybe possibly some trades as well and some decent free agent signings.
Especially when you're poised to have a pick in a better draft. Very interesting.
Well,
Um, with that being said, I think we've covered a whole episode and then some. So that's been Basketball Rewind. Stay tuned for more draft episodes. Again, some of them will have less video than others. Take care, everyone, and peace.